Hi everyone, welcome to the first ever Fireside Chat by Sprout Agritech Limited. Today I'm joined by team member Amos, who is going to be talking to me about the alternative protein world. Amos, this is a pretty passionate topic for you, pretty close to your heart, am I right?
Yes, it is, Chelsea. So I actually spent 6 months over in Europe, based in Wageningen in the Netherlands, looking at this topic specifically. And it was really interesting to see the momentum that's happening there compared to other parts around the world. And New Zealand has probably been a little bit slow on that train, but there's a huge amount of interest in this space, and so it's really exciting.
So just give us a little bit of background about yourself. So obviously you're very interested in this kind of food space. So what's drawn you to this industry?
I've always been interested by technology, and especially technology that's creating fundamental shifts in the world. And a few years ago I was in Israel with the CEO of Fonterra, and we were looking at the future of food together and looking at some of the game-changing technologies. And I really did see a fundamental shift coming in the way that we produce food, the way the food's distributed, and the approach that consumers have when deciding the sort of food that they want to. So that's why I'm really interested to be in this space. I think the interest in technology is now blending with the strong primary industry that we have here in New Zealand.
Awesome. So I guess the big question that we want to answer today is around that alternative protein supply chain, right? So we know it's coming. Farmers are pretty concerned about it because they all think they're going to go out of business if they're growing, beautiful livestock out on our pastures. But what would you say is the biggest pressure point currently in that alternative protein supply chain?
Yeah, so there's a few big ones. I like to try and separate it out into horizons, and right now across the horizon we have immediate opportunity before us in plant-based proteins. So we know about some of these really disruptive technologies like cell-based meat production and microbial fermentation for proteins. Both of these technologies are really still at the commercialization stages and trying to find ways to scale that can also be economic. Where the opportunity is right now, today, is in plant-based proteins. The challenge is trying to get all of the supply chain lined up. So when you say where's the pressure point, it kind of changes depending on where the maturity of the industry is at. So for example, if we look at the oat industry in New Zealand, we have a long history of producing oats for various applications, but not really for protein or using in milk alternative products. So what we need to do now is find the manufacturing space and the technical capability to take that oat as a raw material and transform it into a high value food product that's going to be delivering protein, nutrition along the lines of what consumers want when they want to get a milk alternative product. So then you look at, well, what are some new crops that are perhaps not being traditionally grown in New Zealand but are quite exciting globally? An example of this is fava beans. Now, the example that I know of in New Zealand is a farmer in Timaru wanted to grow fava beans to supply a small food company in New Zealand that wanted to formulate with fava beans. They have a great amino acid profile, they have a great flavour and texture, and they are taking off in places like Europe. So the farmer had a discussion with the food company, and they came to an arrangement to plant a few hectares and grow a little bit of a trial crop. At the completion of the growing cycle, the farmer had harvested and dried the fava beans and got back in touch with the food company, and they settled on 900 as the number. However, as they went back and forth, what they found was that the food company was talking about 900 kilograms and the farmer was talking about 900 tonnes.
Oh.
So essentially what we have there is a pressure point in the supply chain where the farmer knows that he needs to plant and harvest a certain amount of material to make the economics work for him on farm. Yet the food company is still trying to grow its products and market them effectively to grow their sales volume. So you've got this sticking point where a farmer doesn't really want to produce such small scale of plant-based protein, and yet because it's quite a new market in New Zealand and the new companies are exploring it, there's not a huge amount of capital or manufacturing capability to grow it at scale. So you kind of get that shifting pressure point.
Awesome. So I think, you're absolutely right. There is a lot of education that we need to do. Marketing's going to be a big thing. Obviously, that's my passion, hence the reason me picking up on that. But the last thing I did want to talk about was actually this emerging protein network that you are a co-founder of here in New Zealand. I think that is really, really interesting, and I think our audience would be really keen to hear a little bit about, why did you establish that and what is it about?
Yeah, so it was based off what I'd seen in the Netherlands, where there was an established organisation called Protein Cluster that was run by a very successful organisation, Food Valley. And essentially what it was is a independent organisation that works across the supply chain and also works across that academia, government, industry, triple helix model. What the outcomes the organisation is looking for is to try and create a more coherent, joined up system or network of people that are interested in the emerging protein space. And we use the terminology emerging proteins because we really do want to reiterate that this isn't an either or. We really see some of the core participants in this network are existing food producers and existing animal protein actors in the ecosystem. We really want to make sure that the conversation that moves forward is one that is about creating value for New Zealand, not about trying to do one way or another. So that's kind of the broad sort of church that we've established, and moving forward we're putting a paper together that's going to basically give a state of the nation in terms of where the emerging sector is at, and make some recommendations about the best possible ways to move forward that can create value for New Zealand.
Awesome. Well, that sounds really exciting, and I definitely am looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with for that paper. I think that will make for very interesting reading, not only for our team, but for anyone else who's kind of really interested in that emerging protein space.
And we're really excited to share it widely with our partners, and to also get really good feedback and bring them into the conversation.
Awesome. And I'm sure you'll get plenty of feedback too. It's a hotly debated topic.
It is a very hot topic.
Awesome. So thank you, Amos, for joining us today. Amos is our partnership manager here at Sprout, and you'll be hearing more from him in due course.
Hey, thanks very much, Chelsea. Pleasure.
Awesome.